Hey guys, Hugh Shang here. In today's video, I want to talk about the mass void rays that have kind of been blowing up the ladder the last few months, and an exciting new strategy that's emerged called the German taxi to deal with it. Yep, you heard that right. It's called the German taxi. And it's like something created by a mad scientist in some nuclear bunker or something. You guys are gonna absolutely love it. But before we get into this amazing strategy, to tell the story of the German taxi, I'm gonna need to go back a few months in early August to the patch where it all started. Patch 5.02. Yep, patch 5.02. I think I can hear some groans from the Zergs watching, but they are probably overwhelmingly drowned out by the Protoss players cheering because there was quite a big drought of, Protoss late game. Lots of Protoss felt that the late game was pretty unplayable, and then Protoss haven't won a tournament in quite a long time, so, many people felt like this was a pretty good shift. So in this patch, Blizzard introduced some changes to the Void Ray that significantly improved its capability, including lowering its initial cost, a build time reduction, and then maybe most important of all, a movement speed increase, both in the base speed as well as the upgraded flux vein speed. This was a really important buff because before this patch, Void Rays were looked at as units that did not have a major role at any point in the game, and they were generally considered a bad use of your resources. So this patch was designed to give hopefully enough of a boost that they would hopefully be used as a useful investment during the late game. This patch succeeded, and Protoss players began using them more and more in the late game, as well as in addition to some other changes such as a feedback buff and a Tempest buff to structures. And then many Zergs started to feel as though the late game was perhaps even slightly Protoss favored. But that was only the beginning. This is Zest, a handsome devil for sure, but lately he's more known for his new Stargate build, which completely broke the ladder.
What? What?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Okay, this is the exciting one. We're seeing Zest do something new. So
All
he
right.
has some sort of plan, some sort of vision for how the game can be played a bit differently in this matchup.
Yeah. So what is it now? He's making another
It's
void
going to
ray.
be mass void.
It's going to be mass void ray.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope this works.
What he realized faster than other players is that the new Void Ray buffs weren't limited to the late game, and there was actually a lot of potential in getting them right at the beginning of the match. Why wait to use this rejuvenated unit in the late game, he thought to himself, when its now incredible speed can cause havoc in the early game and take advantage of one of Zerg's major weaknesses as a race, their lack of anti-air. So Zest came up with a beautiful triple Stargate opening that he used for the first time in GSL against one of the strongest Zergs named Solar. After the match, many Protoss players saw the potential in Zest's idea and started incorporating the strategy into their repertoire, including Showtime, one of the strongest players in Europe. This strategy became more refined. It was realized only 2 Stargates were needed to constantly produce Void Rays instead of 3. By producing Void Rays out of 2 Stargates, they were able to save some money and produce more Void Rays in a shorter amount of time. This double Stargate Void Ray opener is incredibly strong because it forces Zerg to solve many problems in the mid-game. For example, which units should they make to deal with the Void Rays? And how should they secure their 4th base quickly enough to maintain an economic advantage? This last question is really important because this matchup depends very highly on Zerg maintaining an economic advantage in order to trade with Protoss's more efficient units. So many Zerg started teching quickly into Hydralisk as an answer to the Void Rays. This is an alright solution, but teching a Hydra quickly is a difficult proposition, and although it does eventually deal with the Void Rays, it comes at the cost of delaying your 4th, which is an immense setback when you're supposed to be maintaining an economic advantage in order to compete with Protoss's more efficient units. Especially something as efficient and valuable in the late game as the Void Ray. But there was one Zerg who had an idea. Let's call him Lambo, the chosen one. It's not a story the Protoss would tell you. He did what no Zerg had thought of just yet. He put all his queens inside a German taxi. And even in downtown Berlin, with heavy traffic and no creep spread, he was able to set up an early timing attack that would prove to be incredibly difficult for Protoss players to deal with. Let's take a look. Alright, so let's take a look at the German taxi build order. So I'm here in a replay. I'm just doing a pretty normal 3-hatch. There's not too much to see here, to be honest. So I just skip forward. If you are new to the channel though, or new to the game rather, and you don't know how to do this opening, I am going to be making a video on it tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe for that. But we'll jump in here so we don't have to waste too much time. And this is an important point because you have to put guys on gas. So about 34, 36 supply, whatever build you're opening up with, make sure you can get a layer by 345. So by putting them in gas here, we should have enough money for that in a second. Alright, we're also building up to 4 queens right now. Again, super standard stuff, but very important to get your gas on time. The next thing you're going to try to do is drone pretty hard. We're going to go straight to about 46 drones. So make sure you don't get supply blocked, but just keep droning. I'm getting an overlord about 46 here, if you're going to follow my build. And then at 100 gas, grab your layer. And there's actually a bunch of things to grab at the layer time. So I'm also grabbing a queen. I'm going to grab 2 gases. I'm not going to get a roach one. You're actually going to delay the roach horn so you can tighten this build up a little bit. So layer, queen, gases, they're all timed at the exact same point. I'm going to grab an overlord here, I think, and then I'm going to keep droning until 46. So I'm not quite there yet. Once you get to the maximum drone count you want, then you're going to queue up 1 more queen, and you're going to grab overlord speed on the next 100 gas. So first 100 gas layer, second 100 gas overlord speed. And then you can see here I'm making 2 more overlords. I'm going to queue these up to where I want to make, or like jump my queens inside the overlords in a second. So you'll see me switch that. One thing I was messing up with this build when I was trying it for the first couple times is you need a lot of larvae. And because you're moving all your queens inside the overlords, you actually need to overstack these hatcheries in order to have enough larvae to make lings. It does mean you don't have too much transfuse energy, so there might be a nice balance here once I've played this build a bunch of times. So you might want to experiment with that, but you do need quite a few extra injects to bank up larvae. Okay, so these 2 overlords spot. These are going to be my my dropper lords. So as soon as the layer finishes, you're going to morph these guys. And we're pretty much done. I'm just doing the last couple injects, and I'm going to move them all underneath the dropper lords, and then we're going to move up and move on our way. Now I am moving out a little bit faster than Cyril did here, as well as Solar when I watched their VODs. I think that's because they're waiting for these roaches, and also they're dealing with other things in the early game, like some. If 2 adepts came in at the beginning, then you might need 4 more lings, or you're getting harassed a couple drones, so you need to make some more. But you're kind of aiming for about 6 minutes to hit at their base. Okay, so I made 10 roaches exactly, and then I'm not going to make any more roaches. The reason I'm not going to make any more is because I want to make a lot of ravagers. So only make about 10 roaches and then spam lings. You're only going to be making lings from now on. You can see I spent all my gas on some ravagers here, moving across. If you are playing against voidray, then you might need to drop these and transfuse the overlords as you come across the map. But in the perfect scenario, you just get to run over here and drop at like 5:30, which is pretty sweet. And yeah, that's pretty much the build. So it's not a super complicated build. It's actually fairly easy as long as you can, play pretty quickly around the 4-minute mark where you need to get a bunch of things. And it's a lot of micro and multitask about, you know, this phase of the game. So lots of stuff to work on for sure to tighten this up. There is one more thing at about this stage of the game. You're going to need to add on 3 queens at some point. So if I go back here and ignore the battle, you'll see that I don't have any queens because I bring them all across the map. So at some point you're going to start floating money. You can see I added on 3 queens here, you know, at some point during the battle. So make sure you don't forget to do that. Make sure you're still making some overlords if you need them, and just keep pumping out units until you hopefully win the game. And then as a last note, if your queens are all dying, but you're doing a lot of damage, you can transition by throwing down a Hydra Den at some point, and then adding on even more queens to defend, you know, the void rays, if that's how your opponent holds. So yeah, just some tips, because I mean, you might push with this, kill like all their probes, and then they have 6 or 8 void rays left over, so you might need to spam queens and get a Hydra Den to not die to a counterattack. But really strong build. I don't think this is figured out. I've seen a lot of pros dying to this, so pretty difficult thing to defend for Protoss. Very good build. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and that's all for today, so I will see you in the next one.